This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1877, the Indicia.
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 Wise guy!
Christmas package time.
Oh my God. Well, ever since the pandemic, it's package time because we do the majority of all shopping online
Yeah.
or curbside pickup for the most part. It's just easier.
Why weren't we invited to your tour?
Because Pants dropped something off for me.
Yeah. See, I'm at Walmart, 5 days a week, basically, and I'm always walking around the store. And if I see something that I think Shane might like, well, I'll text him. Like a while back, they had those the superpower figures, Shane. I remember those? So I texted that.
Yeah. The McFarlane Superpowers figures.
And so, like 2 weeks ago, I'm actually in electronics where they actually don't have toys. They have like the collectibles, like, the Funko Pops and other things.
Yeah, NECA and fancier.
And I'm
toys.
walking past, and I did a double take, and I couldn't believe what I saw because I don't follow toy news, so I had no idea these things were coming out or even a thing.
And I followed toy news a little bit.
Classic 50th anniversary Mego figures of Superman, Batman, and Robin. In like the packaging from that time, the world's greatest superheroes. I'm like, it takes me back literally like 50 years, because I had this stuff maybe not 50 years ago, but close to 50 years ago.
Oh yeah, it's close to 50 years now.
So Shane, look what they're here, right? And so he knew about them. But
I knew they were coming, and I said, just Batman and Robin.
So I got them all, and so I dropped them off today, and he invited me in, and now there goes the neighborhood.
Yeah. But Pants, compared to when you're in, the living area is cleaned up a bit because I got all that crap put away and boxes disassembled and collapsed and out for the trash.
But honest to God, your room, I am just so envious of it, because not only because the toys are there, but I think it's neat. Like not clean compared to how what my crappy houses look. So I'm very, very, I mean, you think it's crowded, and it's fine to me.
Well, I have a lot of stuff I'm not going to show, but I have a lot of stuff just strewn about I'm always wrapping Paper Central for Christmas stuff and unpackaging and packaging. So my upstairs around this time always gets to be disastrous as we get stuff in for various.
So Shane, you're saying if we look closely enough in the background, we might spot our gifts. Which ones?
No, those are hidden.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm dropping off some toys and back inside, and then while I'm there, he gets 2 package deliveries of more toys.
Yeah. One was G.I.Joe Crimson Guard, and the other one was some Star Wars stuff that I found on clearance and on sale. And for the most part, I really don't buy that much Star Wars stuff. I really try not to, because what the heck do I need with more of it? But I have something that I want to do with like the original 12 kind of figures that came out back in the 70s. Newer versions, but I will not pay full price for them. I only get them if I can find them really cheap.
Yeah. What percentage of your, like those standing figures back there, what franchise has the most percentage? Is it Star Wars?
No, actually right now, what's standing behind me, and you can't see my desk, Pants on my desk, is the new G.I.Joe stuff over the last 2 years.
Oh, you have more G.I. Joes than anything else?
Right now, yeah, that's out. I mean, I have a lot of Star Wars stuff over the years. I shouldn't say a lot. I have probably a good, like a moving tub full of Star Wars stuff. There's just like Pants has, and you guys have seen it previous years. There's probably 6 to 10 tubs of stuff to sell and get rid of over the years. Some of it was things that I got for the boys over the years that they're now kind of out of. Some of it was stuff that, just like you do with comics, Peter, I don't do it as much with comics, but I rotate toys out sometimes, like things that I bought that I thought would be cool and don't get to do or really change my mind. Then I try to sell them and make way for some new stuff. So I try to keep, there's a certain amount of space that I have for hardbacks and trades, for comic books, for toys, and I try to keep it contained to that without getting terrible. I mean, right now it's terrible, but it's time for a big purge again.
Now here's the real question, and Carlene doesn't want to hear this. How much is that room worth?
Not as much as if it was burned as in a fire, probably, because like most things, there's.
Where'd you go? No, why'd you go to the fire thing?
That was very specific, Shane.
Well, because insurance would cover more of it probably than not. Like if I just get a list or an approximation, I know collectibles are a little bit different when it comes to insurance stuff, but toys themselves, I mean, there are a couple statues I have that are probably a couple $100, and there's a couple sideshow Star Wars figures that I've had for like 15 years that are probably a couple $100. But the majority of stuff doesn't hold value, just like comics don't hold value anymore. There are some of the Muppet things, like the backstage playset from the Palisades Muppets.
Yeah,
that's worth a little bit. I mean, it's not thousands of dollars, but it's worth more than $20. So if that got destroyed or lost, that would kind of hurt because they're really hard to come by. But the general stuff, I mean, it depends. When the Muppet stuff came back on Disney Plus, all that Muppet stuff went up in price for a while, and now it's kind of sank back down on eBay and seller markets and stuff. I can't say what it would be worth. I have no idea.
The only reason I ask is I foolishly was like, oh, you know, how much did I spend in the past year on comics, you know? And then I start thinking, because I have my record book where I constantly keep, you know, and I can look, and I was like, oh, I wonder how much I spend in 10 years. And you start adding it up, and after a while you're like, okay.
Oh yeah, I don't do that.
I can't do that game anymore because you know, it's so funny because as broke as I am, I'd be like, okay, so I could have purchased a car. I could have probably put a down payment on a house.
Right.
So much money.
Yeah. Yeah, if we all wouldn't have spent what we spent over the last 30 years, maybe we would have hardly ever had to work. Like, no, I don't want to go down that path.
Okay, all right.
Plus, I mean, we're all 50 plus for the most part now. There's a good chunk of us are.
Hey! I got 2 years, pal. A year and a half, whatever.
I'm only 40.
So when you start talking, and I know we talked about things like DC's 10-year plan, I don't want to worry about that. 10 years is, 10 years I'll be 60, 20 years I'll be 70. No, I'm not going down that path anymore. Yeah. It is what it is. And there's some stuff that I want to pare down and get rid of. And that's always a rotating process. And Shane, it just goes with interest.
Shane, I was thinking about this when I dropped off the figures there that, we did the World of Toys podcast back in the day. Yeah. And the second episode we did was on Amigo figures. Did I ever tell you the story of how we sort of came to do the podcast?
Well, I know that me and I forget who the heck else was doing it for a little bit first, and then you came on and did it. I was doing it with somebody else for a couple segments. Well,
it was 2008. I think Murd, Peter, Brian, and I, maybe even Jamie, were going down to OmegaCon for the convention. And while we're on the flight, Brian and Peter, where am I going to go? They say, hey, we had to talk to you, Brian. We're going to do this podcast called The World of Toys Spinoff. Shane's doing it, and we want you to join it. And we're doing it whether you join it or not. So it's like, okay, sign me up. So we're in the middle, we're like 30,000 feet over, I don't know, Virginia. It's like, okay, what am I going to say? No. But it was fun. But yeah, I remember we did the Amigo episode.
Well, and I just came across, I love this movie for its stupidity, but more importantly, for one of the early scenes in the movie, because it takes place in a department store, and I've read up on it. I forget which one it was, but the main character, and I'll tell you what it is in a second, but one of the first scenes takes place right in front of an entire Mego display from back in like 1978, 79, something like that. It's Richard Pryor's The Toy.
Oh, okay.
So if you watch even the first, I think it's like 5 or 10 minutes, he's in the department store playing on this Wonder Wheel blow up thing. And it's right in front of a huge full Mego display. It looks really cool. But it, like you say, it takes you right back to being a kid walking through the store.
Well, you talking about G.I. Joe stuff, man. I mean, as much as I love my Star Wars toys, G.I. Joe was by far my favorite toy line universe. Like, I got so caught up in that. Like, I mean, I was actively like playing with G.I. Joes until through like 8th grade.
Like 5 minutes ago.
Me too.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I was out in the backyard, like, setting up the tanks and like orchestrating maneuver. Like, it was doing all kinds of like, I mean, and I see those toys and I just like, oh man, look at that. Yeah. Like I had that. I had the original one of those.
Yeah. This
wasn't
bugger
that
is
big.
so,
It looks big. Yeah.
It's a 6-inch scale. So it's huge. It looked cool. It was I think a PulseCon exclusive. It looked really cool, but I had no idea just quite how big it would be.
He's showing a
massive Serpentor and his air chariot from Hasbro.
Yeah, you see, I'm old school. I'm not the Kung Fu Grip G.I. Joe. That's all I know. I don't know this other stuff. You
the
young
3 3/4 inch, that stuff was it was just awesome. Like they were really good toys, and you actually got like a lot for your money.
Oh yeah, you sure did.
There was 6 million little missiles and doors that open and hatches and things that came out and things that attached. Like it was like a lot to do. It wasn't just like here's a guy and here's a car. It was like, yeah, like I said, like all the missiles and all the things. So you could actively like play with it, like physically do things with it, as opposed to just using your imagination. So it was actually like really satisfying to get those things.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with you, Brian. As much as I loved my Star Wars toys, and I had the Death Star playset, a Tidarium shuttle, an X-Wing, a TIE fighter, a land speeder, and then I had the original like 96 Star Wars figures. And that's about it. But G.I. Joe, I had a good chunk of figures. I had a Sky Striker, a Vamp, a Flight Pod, Cobra. Gosh, what the heck was the wing thing called? I forget. I had a Hiss tank. I had the Polar Battle Bear. The Hiss tank. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. Not really. When I got into high school and I was actually getting out of high school, I worked for a gas station right up from my house, and the 2 owners had 2 young boys. And I was getting out of toys, not thinking I would ever keep collecting this stuff. So I gave all of my mask toys and my G.I. Joe toys to their kids to play with. And I don't regret it because they had an absolute blast with it. I mean, it was 2 big boxes full of stuff, and they just loved it. And for years the few years I worked there, we would talk about it and they'd tell me what they were doing and playing with it. So I had a great time listening to them. So I don't regret it. But I do wish I would have kept the one. It was his tank and a 3-missile launcher. It was Cobra's crimson color, though, red. And my parents got it for me for Christmas. I opened it up and I looked at it. I'm like, what is this? Because I was expecting a black Hiss if I was going to get a Hiss tank. Right. Lo and behold, years later, and I got used to it. It was kind of cool, and I ended up really liking it. But years later, I found out it was a Sears catalog exclusive. That sucker is worth quite a bit of money right now. Not that I collect it for the money, but I do wish I had that one because that one's hard to come by. I thought about trying to piece it together and get it back, but nah, it's too much on eBay and stuff. I'm not doing that.
One of my favorite things was the Snowcat. Oh my God, I love that. Yep. Yeah, that was awesome. And the Rattler, that was the Cobra blue jet plane. Yeah, God, I love that too.
Yep, with the wings that went up to vertically.
Yeah, it was like it was basically an A-10.
Yep.
Like it just the Cobra. Yeah.
I always liked that the G.I. Joe stuff was more realistic and real Army military. The Cobra stuff was a little more fantastical.
Yeah.
And then I got a little bit older and they lost me a little bit with how fantastical everything became and kind of silly for a while. I still kind of followed it, but I didn't really get anything after a certain point. Even the comics, I read them up to probably close to 100. And then especially when it turned into like Snake Eyes Ninja Commandos, I was like, nah, I kind of got out of that then.
That's a franchise that I wish there would be something new that would like suck me in. Not the toys, just like, well, I haven't really read any of the newer comics over the last 15 years. So maybe some of it's pretty good, but I don't know. But I wish like there could be a TV show or a cartoon or something. Like there's
supposed to be a cartoon in the works. there's supposed to be one in the works coming in the next year or so, and I hope so, because like you said, it really could use it.
Yeah.
The comics, I remember reading some of the Devil's Due stuff, and World War III, I think, was the big last storyline. That was really good, and that's well thought of. And then IDW got the license, and they've had it for years, and Larry Hama has been writing it for years. And that when IDW took it over, they really continued, and they had other ancillary titles with different timelines too, but they continued A Real American Hero, and it just ended with what, issue 300, I think, Peter,
Yep.
you had sent me about. I ended up getting a hold of 295 through 300 because I wanted to read that. And then there's another company taking it over, and Larry Hama is going to write for them now, but I don't know which one it is yet.
Yeah, I was trying to look it up, and there was reports like last year that Skybound wanted it, Robert Kirkman's company, that they wanted the G.I. Joe and possibly the Transformers, because I think IDW lost Transformers as well. They no longer have
I didn't know
the
that
license for G.I. Joe or Transformers. So,
okay.
But that issue 300 has like
all
the characters on the cover.
Yeah. It looks neat.
Never appeared on,
and I mean, things like the Crimson Twins, the Crimson Guard Commanders, Tomax and Samot were some of my favorites. So like, I really there's some people that really don't like these, and there's a lot of people that do, and I'm one that does, and I get a real kick out of what they're doing with it. So in this regard, because I was really, after the Muppet stuff, I was kind of out of toys, except for Legos with the kids and stuff. And every now and then, like Pants knows, I got a couple Legos lately, but I was really not getting action figures at all. But I really like these Palisade stuff. I'm sorry, I mean the Hasbro classified stuff. So we'll see how long it lasts.
Greatest G.I. Joe movie is the intro to the movie. The little fight at the Liberty Bell. I mean, Statue of Liberty. Yeah, I love that introduction. That's like, it's worth it just to watch that, and then don't watch anything else. Like,
I actually took the boys recently. It was I forget what year anniversary it was, this past summer, for that, and they re-released it in limited theaters, and the one movie theater in Lidditz had it. So me, Ben, and Matt went down to see it because they used to watch the few DVDs I had of G.I. Joe. I didn't have many of them, but just a couple of them, and they played with a whole bunch of the 25th anniversary toys that came out. So they were into it for quite a couple years with that toy line, but they had never seen the movie, and I didn't have a DVD of it or anything. So then when that came out, we went and saw it, and then like you, they loved the beginning, and just like I do, and we got to the end, and they're like, "Well, that's kind of silly." I'm like, "Yeah, that's really silly," but they enjoyed going to see it in the theater.
Yeah,
because that one was never released in the theater. Only the Transformers one was. The other one was they turned it when Transformers movie did so poorly in the theater, they went and just released it on TV instead and changed the ending a little bit.
So did you say, when you said you were doing the World of Toys with someone else, you don't mean the episodes, you mean like the segments?
I can't remember.
I'm looking at episode 1, Shane and Brian with Bob Bretal.
Maybe it was Bob that we did it, because I did a couple episodes before Pants came on. But I don't think we had the whole theme song and all that.
We had the separate podcast was what I was referring to. I know you did segments before where you talked on the
show. That's probably what it was.
That's where it spun out. It spun out spin-off podcasts.
Maybe that's what it was.
Semantics.
All those podcasts spun out of.
Oh yeah.
It was always like coming up with ideas and then going and, I actually pulled a little CGS history. I was bored and I was like, let me see so December 2005. Do you know what episode 83 was?
Yeah, Stan Lee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Brian D. Moore.
I know. He might have said it wrong, but it's still like the greatest thing in the world to have Stan Lee say your name on video, like have a recording of that.
Yeah.
It's pretty rad.
So that was December 12th, 2005. And then the only other one I picked was December 4th, 2009, our 50th Book of the Month Club.
Wow.
Do you remember what it was?
I don't remember the 50th, no.
It was Bone, 1 volume with Jeff Smith and Steve Haymaker.
Oh, wow.
Nice. God, I gotta listen to that again.
Yeah.
I was starting to listen to the Strangers in Paradise ones with Jamie and then Terry Moore. but I didn't get through them all. I got to catch back up to that.
I remember how that one was a fun one, the Jeff Smith one, because he was fun. He was a fun
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That was my first time reading Bone, and Ben read that not long after because he picked it up. I had just gotten rid of my all-in-one volume because I ended up getting a hold of the color Scholastic hardback versions of them, and I had the one volume and I sold it, and then we had the one Super Show, and Ben's like, I want to read that. I'm like, I just got rid of the whole one volume, and that's the one he wanted. So then I rebought it, probably off of DCBS in stock trades when they were there, whatever year that was. I think that's where I got it from.
They were there that first year, yeah.
And then he read it and loved it.
That was huge, that book. That was like,
Yeah.
how the heck were we supposed to read that?
I still have it.
I think I sold mine years ago.
I do still have the Scholastic versions that I picked up.
It was too heavy. I couldn't take it anymore face to face. I need short. If it can't fit in my iPad, I mean, I don't want it. We want to talk some stuff.
Sure.
Which should we talk about? Guardians? We probably all have seen that.
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah,
It was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Goofy little special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope they continue this trend with these specials throughout the next year or two at least. I think they're a lot of fun, and they're doing things that they wouldn't do in a movie, and you shouldn't.
Right, like having Kevin Bacon on running around like a madman.
It was fantastic.
Because what is he doing nowadays? Nothing.
I just keep thinking, well, there's some more people that I'm within 6 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon with.
Well, it's funny. One of the things I saw online is because they had that clip of what Santa Claus Goes to Mars on the Guardian special, that somehow now ties more people closer to Kevin Bacon. Separation like 1 or 2 as opposed to before.
That doesn't count.
Yeah, they can't do it through the movie.
Hey, I don't make the rules. It's just
No.
Yeah,
But you know what?
Say it doesn't count.
Proud father moment. We're watching that, and both my daughters go, "Oh, that's that MST3K one we watched," because there's that they do that horrible Santa Claus movie on MST3K, and we obviously never watched the movie by itself. We watched the MST3K version of it, and they remembered, and so I was very proud. Yeah,
I've never seen either of those. I wasn't a big MSTK fan.
I wasn't either. There were a couple times when Jamie and Scott would watch something and I'd be over and we'd watch it. And I can remember, I don't remember if we did it as a larger group or if it was just them specifically, but I remember one where it was a terrible, terrible sci-fi version of something similar to Battlestar Galactica. And it used the ship shots of the Galacta when you're outside the ship looking at it and you're kind of flying over it. It used almost every stock footage of the Galactica possible, but it had absolutely nothing to do with it and had nothing, no actors, nothing. But that's the stock footage they used for this ship they were in. It was horrible.
How could they do that?
I have no idea.
So is the whole thing between Peter and Mantis, that wasn't brought up in the second Guardians, was it? No, that's totally made up for this.
Yep.
They want people to actually remember that terrible movie existed. They were like, "Oh yeah, remember the second one with Ego?" No.
I take snips of that one that I like. I don't watch that one very much, but if I do, I kind of skip around to just my favorite parts, and it's over in like a half hour.
Yeah,
I kind of liked that. What's his face was in a suit. Groot was in it looked like they borrowed it from like the Disneyland or something.
Yeah,
like he was
because he's like teenage Groot now or whatever.
Yeah, no, like it wasn't CGI. He was like it was a guy in a.
Right in the special. Yeah, I did like that too. Ben said, "Why does he look different?" And I'm like, "Well, when Groot goes back, he looks different."
But he was real. Like they could actually touch him, and he hugged like at the end, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, it worked.
It worked for me.
Yeah, me too.
You could tell it was on the low budge. They were like, we got to do these between takes, and of Guardians 3. Chris Pratt looked so bored in that special. He looked like he was like,
Yeah, he was just sad from Christmas.
I guess. I imagine they were like filming Guardians 3 and then they were like, oh, we're on your lunch break. We got to do the special thing. And it was like, oh, crap, that's right.
Yeah.
And it's like, let me just go over and listen to the band play and
Yeah.
look at some lights. Oh, Christmas lights. I was like, he looks so bored. He's so angry, so annoyed that he's filming this.
Probably in his contract somehow, you know.
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, let's get this over with.
That's
But the
funny.
other two were clearly having tons of fun.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Dave Bautista and what's her face, because those scenes with them, and she is like insane, like over the top with like manic. It was like so great, right? We laughed quite a bit, and I just thought the whole Kevin Bacon bit was just funny.
Oh yeah, priceless.
Right? Like just like pick a random star and go with it, and yeah, I mean, it does.
Wasn't
sort of
he mentioned
fit.
back in the first movie?
Oh yeah, yeah. He was.
Yeah.
That was Quill's
remember.
hero. Was Kevin Bacon. Yep, that was the whole crux of it. Was from the first movie.
Where's the scene with Spider-Man where he's like the greatest movie he was like, is Footloose still the greatest movie ever?
It's like, no, it never was.
I think that was Infinity War, right?
It's Infinity War when they first meet.
Yeah, because Footloose is the greatest movie ever. Come on. I was hoping. Part of me was like, boy, I really just wish they like rolled up on Kevin Bacon's house. Like, I want that to really be his house that they just totally trashed.
Me too.
And I wanted them really to be like in, what was that? What were they on? The Stars, the Walk of Stars or whatever in Hollywood or whatever. Like, I wanted her to really just that was like a Captain America dude. Like, oh my God, go jump on him. Like, don't even tell him. Just go jump.
Yeah.
Or the GoBot that they were beating up. like, because they look so out of place, right? Because again, it's like sort of low budget. They don't care about things mixing, right? They're like, whatever.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was really hoping that they were really there doing that, and I like that they got Kira Sedgwick in on it too for a couple lines.
Yeah,
just on the phone.
She's like,
phoning your performance in, as the kids say.
Yeah.
Good pants. That was good.
Oh, it's not mine. I stole it from the internet, of course. I had no original thoughts.
The comic theater lingo. I love it.
The only thing I wish is I wanted it to be like 15 minutes longer because I was having a good time watching it, and all of a sudden it ended. I'm like, oh, too soon.
It was about right for me because like by the time it got to the end, I was like, all right, come on. All right, we get it now. We're like, okay, it's done. We got the point. I think the whole point was to set up the family connection thing for whatever is coming.
I think so too.
Probably, and yeah.
And I suspect major changes to happen in that third one. I mean, I haven't seen or heard anything.
Oh, you haven't seen the trailer?
No.
I didn't.
Oh,
watch
I did see the
Friendly.
trailer. I did see the trailer.
Shane and I saw the trailer.
If
But
you
it
want to
doesn't
talk
really-
about it, I'll leave the room.
It doesn't really do anything. I mean, it's just, hey, look, they're in the movie.
I wish I could like mute us for you guys, like so that you couldn't hear us. I probably could somehow, and then Shane and I could just talk about the trailer.
Or we could just do like this.
Yeah, I mean,
That's not as much fun. Yeah, so you can't hear. No, we won't talk about it. No,
Okay.
that's all right.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, I only watch. I watch one trailer. That's it. Like you guys don't watch it. I watch one. I allow myself one because I'm curious, and then I go away and don't watch it again because, I think we talked enough about this even years ago. Too many people watch the trailers and then they watch everything. They read everything before they even see the movie.
Yeah, that.
And then they're like, "Oh, there were no surprises." What?
Yeah, no shit. When you read every article and you watch every interview, you're not going to really
Why bother going to see it then?
Yeah.
I will watch the trailers as they come out. I usually kind of skip the TV commercials once they get too heavy because they just bombard you like 2 weeks before the movies come out. But I will watch the big trailers when they premiere. But then that's about it. I mean, I haven't really watched trailers over and over since the prequels of Star Wars came out and everything was like, oh my God, new Star Wars back in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. Those I watched, but over and over, but not really much since then.
You two, Brian and Pants, you know that there was an Indiana Jones ones too, right?
I do.
I did watch that.
Yeah, I watched that too.
Because it was like a minute.
Yeah. Go take
I'm not
piss.
gonna. I don't need to say anything. I mean, like, It makes me want to see the movie. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yep.
Wait, I want to say something.
All right, well, go ahead. Say
All right.
it.
Go to the bathroom, pants.
Anyway.
Wait, do we know? Could we tell what decade it's in from the trailer?
We know he fights Nazis because I read it somewhere.
Yeah,
Because they're
there's
de-aging him in half the movie or whatever.
but I think one of the guys that shows up is the Russian guy from the last movie in some
Yeah,
part.
there's some like
I think it's like
stuff
flashbacks.
a couple years after, and then there's old stuff.
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Like,
that's
so
okay.
yeah. But I get the impression that there's like a reasonable amount of the movie is like him fighting Nazis because they know that's what everybody wants to see.
Yeah.
And he was totally okay with the de-aging software, and they created new de-aging software just for the movie to make it as good as they could make it or whatever. And so like, yeah.
I'm curious to see what they do with it.
Yeah.
And Phoebe Waller-Bridge is so great. So just her being in the movie is like a good sign,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Is it
What do you-
safe?
No,
Not
not
yet.
yet.
Oh, okay.
What do you think? What do you think of the title, Disc Dial of Destiny?
I don't know. It sounds lame, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay.
But it does go with George Lucas and probably Steven Spielberg's thought of like the Saturday morning serials from the 50s. So I get it, but yeah, it sounds kind of lame. Someone memed like Dial of Disaster or something like that.
But it's James Mangold, and Logan was really good. So
Oh, I'll still go see. I mean, when you take Crystal Skull, I still like a good chunk of that movie, but they do lose me at one point.
Well, I'll tell you what, I guess it was like maybe last Christmas. So in December, I'm always pants. You can. We're not talking about it anymore. But in December, I'm always like super busy crafting. So I'm always like watching TV and movies or whatever while I'm working on projects, because I basically spend all of December until like Christmas Eve just making stuff.
Mhm.
And I rewatched Crystal Skull. Like I hadn't seen it since the theater. And then it was, 18 years later, 15 years later, whatever. I was like, all right, I'll watch it again. It was on Amazon or for free or whatever, right? And I was expecting just be like, oh, the whole time. And actually, I think like 75% of that movie is like a pretty solid Indiana Jones movie.
Yep.
There's just like a couple scenes that are pretty stupid. And the rest of it's like, this is fine. Like that came out when we were kids, we would have been totally fine with it.
And
100%.
here's why I think the same way. And I totally agree with what you're saying. I took Ben and Matt to see that movie because they had not really watched Indiana Jones before that. And my youngest, Matt, loved it. He got so into Indiana Jones from that movie, and it hit him just the right way. Ben liked it, but not like Matt did. He really had an affinity for it. And I credit it for pulling him in. And then we watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then we watched The Last Crusade. We didn't watch Temple of Doom. He was too young for that, I thought. As much as, because I think I was, gosh, when did that come out? 85, 84?
84.
I would have been 12. Yeah, I would have been 12. And I didn't see it till it was on HBO. So I was probably 13 or more till it got on there. And I was fine. But he was like, I don't know, 5, 6.
Yeah.
And I really didn't think
ripping out the heart scene.
That's
and
that's the part that I had a problem with. And then he did watch it eventually, and he was like, all right, but he didn't like it like the other two.
Right.
So, but he really did like that Crystal Skull one first. And it pulled him into the universe. So I credit it for that. It did its job. It pulled a kid in to like it.
And I think the problem was we all just had such high expectations. And then because there were some lame parts, then our brains just were like, nope. But after sitting on it for 12 years or whatever, it was like, actually, it's not so bad.
Yeah. My two biggest
2008. It was came out in 2008.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know.
Yeah. So
Did we do a review of that episode at the time?
Yeah, I think so.
Holy cow. I seem to recall that we might have even seen it in the theater together.
It's possible.
we may have. I know I saw it with Ben and Matt at one point. Maybe I saw it twice, which is also very possible.
Yeah.
My two biggest problems with that movie, when he's Tarzaning through the jungle with the monkeys.
Yep. Whoop, just cut it. Yeah.
And I could buy the entire search for the UFO all the way until the end when they came alive once he placed the skull in its place and they all kind of became animated into one being, and the ship took off. Now, if the ship took off just by itself, fine, but I really didn't buy these 8 skeletons coming together and being animated and lunging at him and whatever craziness happened. That took me right out.
Shane, in the first movie, God kills all the Nazis. In the second movie, he has his like all this mystical shit is happening, and he like all the stones or anything. And then in the third movie, again, like the cup of Christ saves them from death, like, and gives them everlasting life and everything. Like, it's all fits. It's fine.
Sure. But for whatever reason, that one really, I'm like, I don't know. But everything else about it, again, except the monkeys. The
monkey scene is really the worst. Like that just is ridiculous. Yep. And then the rest of the movie is like pretty fine. The fire ants are pretty stupid too. Like that was like a bit much, you know.
Yeah, but I accepted that kind of with the rats from Last Crusade and the snakes in Raiders of the Lost Ark. So it made sense to have some kind of creature like that.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I still enjoyed it more than most people.
It was episode 447. That's early, sort of early-ish, Would you have been okay had the series continued with what's his name? Would you have been okay with it?
I don't think he was a good so there's two things about it, right? I think Indiana Jones isn't nearly as even the concept of Indiana Jones isn't as nearly interesting the more modern you get. It has to be like older to really be like interesting. Technology has to be older. There has to be not as many discoveries and not as much civilization and all that stuff. So like the 20s through the 40s are like prime, I think, for that. And so so moving it forward doesn't really make a lot of sense, doesn't feel right. And then that actor, I don't hate Shia LaBeouf like other people do. But I think he's not necessarily, I don't think that's his role. I think he's good at like quirky indie movies and stuff like that, or a smaller role. I don't know, just not the grandiose Indiana Jones stuff. So I think what I would want is I want it to be like a James Bond kind of thing, where it's like you cast an Indiana Jones, it's still 1939. Somehow he's fighting Nazis, and then he makes 3 or 4 movies, and he casts a new one, and he's still fighting Nazis in 1939. It doesn't matter. Just it's always there. It's just endless stories, whatever. Boom. And everybody will have their favorite Indiana Jones, whatever. It's fine. That's what I want, right?
I think in that way they've wasted the property by not doing that.
Yeah. Maybe after this, or maybe they'll go to the TV and maybe they'll rewind and they'll recast and they'll do a TV show. And it's like, give me 6 episodes a year.
Like the Young Indiana Jones?
Exactly.
Some of that was really good.
Some of it was good, right? And give us 6 episodes a year. That way you're not like trying to think of ideas, and you'll love it.
I agree. Great. Yeah, I think that's a total wasted property for 5 movies in 42 years. That's brutal.
It's because it was so.
Well, this is 40 years. Well, it'll be next year though, so 41 years, right?
Yeah, it's so tied in with Harrison Ford. They're not ready to. They milked one more out of him, the old man.
And I'm fine with that to a certain extent if he wants to do it. Okay, fine. But I really think long ago they should have just, like Brian said, recast and do it just like James Bond. Many people could play it. Why not?
Yeah.
Then they could have done a multiverse of Indiana Jones.
He goes and finds a stone.
What's interesting, right, is like, certainly there would be some actors and we'd be like, that's not really Indiana Jones, but there could definitely be another one where we'd be like, oh, he's giving Harrison Ford a run for his money. Mm-hmm. Like, it's the same thing with James Bond. It's like, you think you like somebody as Bond, and then somebody new comes along and you're like, man, I really like how he plays Bond. Like, I really like the Daniel Craig Bond, but I also loved, the Remington Steele guy. Why can't I think of his name? Him.
Pierce Brosnan?
Pierce Brosnan. I loved him as Bond. It's like, I don't have to have a favorite. I can just like them because they're interesting in their own ways, right?
Yeah.
So like it could be the same way. And then we're 20 years from now, Shane, when we're like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm 70, but hey, we can still enjoy the newest Indiana Jones. And
Yep. You got it.
that's all I want in life. Is that so much to ask?
Yeah. Apparently.
They just need to do like the old Bewitched series and just, new season started, got a new
Darren.
dick, and you're like, what? Okay. Or like soap operas. Today,
Oh, yeah.
the character of blah 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 will now be played like they don't even give an F. They're like,
Yep.
You saw him in the last episode? Who cares? We got a whole new actor playing him. They don't even care.
Yeah.
They did that in Sense8 on Netflix, the second season. The one character was just a new actor, and it was like, what? I don't know if any of you guys have watched that. That is one of the best shows I've ever seen. I love that show so much.
I saw the first season. I haven't seen the second one yet, so I'm curious to see which actor that was.
The African guy.
Oh, okay.
And he was so great in the first season.
Yeah.
So great. And then he was just a different guy. And at first you're like, that's not him. By the end, it's fine. But I don't know that I liked him quite as much as the guy in the first. I never knew why they recast. I don't know if it was his decision, the show's decision. I don't know what the deal was, but
yeah, I like that first season. I mean, it's got J. Michael Straczynski as one of the writers and the creators along with the Wachowskis, so, but it felt like, if you remember Rising Stars, the comic Rising Stars, where a bunch of people get different powers, but this is way deeper, and it's about their connections, and it's incredibly adult. Like, your kids are not going to be watching this. But it was interesting. It was so interesting the way they came together in those last few episodes. Once they started to learn how to connect, and the little triangles or the little, was it triangles or whatever it was, like people started to connect within the group and how they could use that. And I'm sure the second season probably goes further.
Yeah, it just gets richer and deeper. And then they wanted to do more, but it was too expensive. They didn't get the viewership because they literally filmed it all around the world. So the cast was flying because there's 8 people in 8 countries. And so they had to constantly go to all these other cities, and they actually filmed it on location. So it's very expensive. So they canceled it, but they got them to do a movie that like wrapped it all up. So there was 2 seasons and then a 2-hour movie.
Right.
Yeah.
That's nice. If something has to get canceled, at least give it that kind of a wrap up so you can
finish they got some closure.
Yeah. Because you would see them talk to each other, but they would have, like Brian said, they would have to be in the city that they were in, but then also like they would reverse it. So that was the neat thing about it, I think, because it was sort of authentic in that way when you're on location and you're right there. And it was everything I think that you wanted Heroes to be and never was. Like the promise of Heroes, and you got like one little fight at the end of the first season, and then all the other seasons started to get, I don't know, just fell apart, and then they brought it back and it was no better. But Sense8, like that sort of mental connection they had was really great. So
it's called Sense8.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they were in South Korea, India, Nigeria, Mexico, Iceland, Germany, and the US.
Wow.
I guess there were 2 of them in like San Francisco and Chicago or something, I think, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was awesome. So they're constantly all over the place.
Yeah. And it's not like Heroes. Like it's not, I think they probably know that it wasn't going to get like maybe like a mass audience, right? Because it's challenging. They really challenge your ideas of identity, and they're not afraid to show you things. Like some of the opening, like in the very first episode, you're like, whoa, like but it was good. It was really good. And I sort of sat on the first season because I was like, so much sort of happens, and it takes a while to meet all the characters and really understand them, and they're all going through changes. And I was like, sort of like, ooh, just want to sit on that season before I start. And I just haven't gone back yet. So it's good. Yeah,
I have to look it up. I watched Heroes through once. And then I did not watch the when it came back.
Oh, the comeback was so like disappointing. That show had so much promise, and
Yeah, I liked the first
Wow.
season, but like you said, you only got one thing at the end of the first season, and then each season it was like okay, but boy, by the end of that show,
no, I struggled. I really
Yep.
struggled.
I did too.
Did you watch For All Mankind, Shane? Did you watch the first
I
episode?
watched the first episode. Yeah,
Pants, you watch it too?
As did I. Yes, I did.
yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
It was a little slow in the very beginning, but it's finding its footing. It's kind of let you know what's going on without let you know until you see the TV broadcast and you're like, oh, okay, well that's exactly when it happened, and then you find out a little bit of what happened before and a little bit what's happening now, and yeah, I liked it. Very detailed.
The real world, the adding of the real world stuff, and some of those characters are real. That's really cool. That's the part of it that's
Yep.
the small little things, right? Like you said, the opening thing, and you're watching the landing on the moon. So, and we're like, oh, this is cool. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And then the twist happens, and you're like, dope. And everybody's pissed off, like, because Americans aren't the first ones on the moon, blah, blah, blah. But then the ripple effects, I'm having a lot of fun with the small ripple effects. Like when you see Ted Kennedy and they're like, he canceled his party at Chappaquiddick to come to Washington. And you're like, oh, that means, what's her name doesn't die, right? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
Oh, now that's interesting to me. If they keep doing stuff like that.
Now, that happened in the first episode?
Yeah.
I missed that part. Okay.
It's like,
it's just a snippet, little
okay.
offhand comment.
Right. I was a little taken
peppered in there. Yeah.
Okay. I was a little drawn back by the fake Walter Cronkite.
Well,
I'm more authentic and everything like that.
Yeah. Was it meant to be him? Yeah, was it?
I have to imagine it would, because he did the original. Well, he's the one we know most for those huge events, the voice and the image of Walter Cronkite.
Okay.
But I knew going in of that it was the Russians on the moon first. So I watched the first episode, and I have no plans going on with this anymore. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it didn't want me to find out any more about it. Now, I hear from people who I trust that it gets really good. I guess it's had its third season.
Yeah, it's epic.
I just don't. I can't wait that long. I'm watching too much. I get too much other stuff going on to waste my time with that.
It builds and builds and builds.
I don't waste my time. It's like I just other things I want to watch instead of that.
Put it in your rotation.
That.
Here, Pat.
I have my rotation is pretty packed as it is, which I'll get to in a minute, maybe.
I see online people sell it to me like it's like, think of it almost like a what if version of this is how the Federation started. Does that interest you now? No.
What's the matter with the face palm there?
No, just your conviction. You're just like, nope. Bounces right off me. Your Federation means nothing to me.
The only thing I will say, Pants, is you did used to say that about Doctor Who, and look at how much you like that now. That's the only.
Well, that's true. That's true.
The only little caveat I'll put on that.
I do have that addictive part of me where if I catch on something, I won't let go of it.
Yeah.
And there are like with Heroes, I actually never watched much past like the third season. I actually said, okay, this is it. I can't deal with this. For All Mankind, not like that, but it didn't draw me in, and I don't feel the need to continue with it. Maybe someday, and luckily, for the most part, I don't think I know anything else that happens. Like nothing else that happens. All I knew was a major thing about it's they go to the moon first. It's like okay, then maybe I could come back to it someday when I go. When I'm 95. But until then, I've got other things I like to watch. That's just me.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep watching it, and we'll check in, and then we'll keep teasing you, Pants, and then you'll have to watch.
Then I'll just throw the computer across the room. It's like no.
Because
to be fair,
they just raised the price of Apple TV to $2 to like $6.99 now. It's gonna be my first bill. So
I do think that like the world in general, and not just us, like we all need to give shows more than one episode, right? Like. Because how much can you suck people in one episode? I mean, sure you can. It's been done.
You want to watch episode 2 of Gunsmoke?
Okay, fair enough. But like 2 episodes is not a huge time commitment either, right?
No, I understand. But it's a shiny. There's always something new there. And if you're not, I'm sorry, if you're not, if it doesn't grab you, how much do you want to waste? I shouldn't say waste. How much time do you want to invest in that if there's other things to go on? I mean, people have lives, not me, but people have lives and do things, and that's an hour wasted.
I understand that.
Sorry, I'm an idiot.
You know what? If you watch it while you're organizing your comics, it's not an hour wasted.
And I'm not watching it. I have to pay attention so I understand.
Yeah.
I'm like, I missed the whole thing with the Chappaquiddick.
I agree with you there, Two Pants. When it comes to new things, I sit and watch it. I don't do anything else while I'm watching something new.
Yeah, I'm sort of invested because I am wrongfully maybe, but I am sort of like thinking, oh, this is like, alternate Star Trek. But also like Brian, you said episode 3 is epic. Like, I'm like, okay, but to be epic, don't they have to go further? Like in other like, where's this going? Because I'm sort of invested. I know I'm invested in these characters, and I like the lead guy, the who played Rick Flag in Suicide Squad, and every now and then, like you start to see whatever the main guy is at NASA, the guy in the suit that is always talking to the girl, like he was President Adar in Battlestar Galactica, so I'm seeing people I recognize. The main character's wife was Patty Spivot on Flash. She was like on Flash.
I had to look that up. It was driving me crazy through the whole episode trying to figure out who she was.
Right. So it's like these actors that you've seen before, which is always cool. And then the writing is really good and interesting. The way it really got me was when he starts talking about NASA and he starts talking about, we're no longer go-getters, we're sort of complacent, blah, 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 blah. And it felt like watching Newsroom when it was like, all of a sudden, they're like, no, we can do this if we decide to do it, right? And I felt like that's the spirit behind the show. It's like, okay, it's interesting because it's almost like what they needed to do more than just what we did in real life, because our own space program petered out, so that to me is what's really interesting is, and not to get like patriotic, but there is something very American about that too, that spirit, the real American spirit, the one that loves sports movies and, not the one that forms insurrections at the Capitol. But, like it makes me feel like, yes, this is the reason why I love that John Adams miniseries and why I love 1776 and Hamilton, like people who went through the muck and who struggled but became great, and I'm sure they're going to touch on, social issues and stuff like that. But there's some real interesting places that I want to see if that's where they go. Obviously, people already know because it's 3 seasons in. But yeah, I'm in it.
Well, and just from the description you guys gave last time, Brian especially, I was hooked because I liked back in the was it the late 80s or early 90s? I liked some of Harry Turtledove's alternate history books, novels that came out. Robert Harris did one called Fatherland that I loved, and I'm willing to give it a chance just because I trust your opinion, Brian, and knowing how much I love those books, and this sounds very similar to that. There's a good chance I'll love it.
Yeah, no, I think you definitely will, and Peter, like you said, like the little like butterfly effect stuff that they do, it's like there's little shit in the background. You're like, wait, that part, like that technology wasn't there in that year, and they're not even talking about it. It's just like in somebody's living room, and you're like, but they put that there on purpose because they know it wasn't there in that year. But they're like suggesting that because we've continued this space race, then it's advanced technology, which it had. Like the space race forced us, like gave us all kinds of technology we never had before. And if we had done that for another 20 years, how much further, we would be so far ahead than we are now, right? So it's all interesting little things that are just like sprinkled throughout the show. It's fun, and there's just some like exciting things that happen and cool scenes and everything, And also the show just taught me that basically every astronaut ever is completely certifiably insane. Like you have to be. It's not even being brave. It's just that they're nuts and they don't even understand how dangerous it is. And they're just like, I don't know, shoot me in the face. Like my ego is bigger than my brain. And so I'm just going to go, like it's completely crazy. Those missions. Oh, God.
Well, could I try something here? I have a little TV talk, which will lead into a comic conversation. How's that? Can I try this?
Sure.
Okay. So that I have my TV listing that I'm doing. I watch these certain shows in order. One of them is The Twilight Zone. Mm-hmm. I'm rewatching that. Of course, created by Rod Serling. Ran for 5 years, and from 59 to 64. And I'm about 29 episodes to go before that ends. And when that ended, I was going to put next in that slot another show he created, you probably heard of, Night Gallery.
I've never heard of it.
Okay, well, anyway, it's sort of been around for a while. I think it came out in like 69 and ran for a few years. I've seen a few episodes. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I have seen it. I knew it was around, and that was going to be my next thing. Well, I'm online looking at some things, and I came across something, and I consider myself, I think I know a lot about that era of TV more than I probably should. He did a show after Twilight Zone and before the Night Gallery I never heard of before. So, of course, I got the DVD right away. It's called The Loner, a powerful Western series from Rod Serling, creator of the Twilight Zone. It's a Western, ran for 1 year, 65 to 66, starring Lloyd Bridges.
Oh, wow.
And it's like an adult Western. Lloyd Bridges stars as Colton, a former Union cavalry captain who rides the American West in search of himself. They say it's considered a highly regarded among Western fans or whatever, but I never heard of the show before.
No,
and
me either.
I was completely stunned. So, of course, I grabbed the DVD, and I'll watch it after the Twilight Zone, which brings me to my comic question. So, has there been a creator that you're fond of or you know their work, so you think, and then all of a sudden you find out something they've done you never knew existed, and you say, oh my God, I got to check that out? I'll give you an example that I thought of. So, of course, Jack Kirby. Whole lot's work, Marvel stuff, DC stuff. Sometime in the 90s, I found a trade solicit. He worked on the Green Arrow in the 1950s for Venture Comics. I didn't know that. So, boom, I got that trade right away. And then when they had DC, these Millennium editions in like 2000, they reprinted, I think it was Young Romance with Simon and Kirby. Not only did he basically created romance comics. I said, well, I got to look into this, and got that Millennium edition. And I think they even put a trade out, which is somewhere in the house here. So I thought I knew Kirby. Okay. And then two things I never heard of before. So are there any creators that have something like that you discovered?
It's hard for me to think back to when that would have happened because of talking, especially with you all over the last 15 years, and even the group we'd hang out before, like every Friday or something, because we've talked about it so much. I don't know that there's anybody now that I could remember that happened with. Maybe the closest off the top of my head was Kevin Maguire doing that Captain America mini.
Oh, I love that.
Because I didn't know that was out there
Yes.
until much after it was Justice League was over.
It's so good. It's so good. Because I picked that up as that was coming out. He's talking about Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty. It was a 4-issue series, prestige format. Fabian Nicieza, I think, was the writer.
It could be.
Yeah, and Kevin Maguire did 1 through 3. I can't remember if like in 4 did he just do like part of it or the breakdowns or maybe none at all. Like he didn't quite do all of it. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, that I don't even know. I picked it up
So good.
somewhere along the last 10 years, but I have not read it yet.
Yeah. And it's when I was sort of flipping through it recently, or in the past year or two, because I've been thinking about rereading it and talking about it. It is oddly like close to what the first Captain America movie could have been. You know what I mean? Like the one, it actually even feels sort of like, because it has a female officer, even though it's not Peggy. It's like a new officer that they make for the miniseries. It's got Bucky. It's got the Red Skull, I'm pretty sure. It's so good. It's so good. And it's like, it's definitely one of those that most people don't know. But so that's actually a really good choice.
Yeah, that's the first one that pops in my head.
Okay. I know it's a tough question on the spot, but I thought about it and said, that's an interesting topic for discussion.
Yeah.
I had sort of the reverse happen where I found out later that something I liked when I was younger was by an artist that I then loved as a like in my 20s or 30s. So Guy Davis, right?
Right.
He's an amazing artist, quirky, weird stuff, but like done lots of stuff, and I love him, right? And then I was going through some of my trades, and randomly in like 1989 or something at Golden Eagle, there's this like trade. It wasn't really a trade. It was probably technically a graphic novel because I don't think it was ever printed in issues. It was just like a book. And it was this weird like fantasy comic, right? And I love fantasy stuff. So I'm like a 15-year-old. I'm like, oh, let me buy this, right? And I read it and like it sat on my shelf ever since. And like, I don't remember who wrote it, who drew it. I don't remember anything about it. I just remember I have this thing. And then years later, Guy Davis is famous. And I'm like going through my bookshelf. I'm like, who did this? What is this random book? And it's like art by Guy Davis. I'm like, are you kidding me? Right. And I think I took it to a convention and I was like, I'm going to have Guy Davis sign this. Right. Cause it's like, that shows that I'm like a serious fan. And he was like, oh, I can't believe you have this. I thought every copy of this was destroyed. He was like all embarrassed by it. And I'm trying to figure out the Grand Comic Book Database sucks. I want Comic Book DB to be in existence.
Another website you hate.
It's just like it doesn't work like you want it to work. It's supposed to work like IMDb. Like I want to see a chronological history of this guy's.
Bring back Comic DB.
The Realm. It was called The Realm from 1986. So it was printed as like there were 12 issues. So I guess I did get a trade then. And I don't know if it was all 12 or if it was like 6 issues or whatever, but by who the hell published this? Arrow Comics. Never even heard of them. But yeah. So there you go. So that was like the reverse.
Okay.
I rediscovered somebody that I bought early on and didn't know about.
And I know that happened easily when I first started meeting Kevin and Peter and we'd hang out at Golden Eagle. I probably would run out of fingers, toes, arms, appendages, counting how many times that would have happened back then. But I don't remember what those instances were. Because I liked what I liked as far as Batman and Justice League and Spider-Man back before I met anybody. But after that, there was a whole realm of comics opened up in my mind then that I knew nothing about at the time.
It doesn't. I'm trying to see if that Captain America is on the Marvel website, but it's kind of hard to navigate. So it's not to go back to it. So it's Adventures of Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty 1 through 4. It came out in 91. Fabian Nicieza, Kevin Maguire, Joseph Rubinstein, Richard Starkings, Paul Mounts on colors. I mean, it's got a good creative team.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. And the last two issues also have artwork by Kevin West and Steve Carr. It's really good. It's okay. I haven't read it in a long time, but I was, me, I'm not like I'm not a big Captain America reader, but that was, I wanted to get because it was prestige format when it came out. It was Kevin Maguire. I was like, yeah, I'm getting this damn book. And I really enjoyed it. So I hope it holds up. So look for it on the app if it's not there. I guess you have to, there is a trade. I don't know how easy it is to get that trade, but I can't think of anything. I would have to really think about, I am always amazed when I see to go back to Kirby, to see a new Kirby pinup. Not that I've seen every Kirby artwork, you know what I mean? But you're always like, well, when did he do that? When did he do the Star Wars image? When did he do, because he really didn't draw like certain like Batman. He doesn't have a lot of Batman work. But then when you see like a Batman show up, you're like, well, when did he do that? So to see the scope of his artwork and to see him on characters, like you said, like Green Arrow and things you don't even think about is just amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm sorry to put you guys on the spot. Maybe think about it. See if you guys come up with answers. I'm curious because it's always, every now and then happens when you, wait, he did what? Oh, I got to check that out, or she for that matter. It's a lot of, not necessarily that it's good or not, but that you said, whoa, I got to check that out. Just think about it. Yeah.
I like to see them when they pop up like in random miniseries and you're like, wait, who did that miniseries? And you're like, oh, that was so-and-so. Or like in Who's Who, the first Who's Who, because the artwork in there is a little more expressive than in the Ohatmu, like it's got a little more design to it. And then you're like, oh, one of the Hernandez Love and Rockets guys does like a few of the images in there, or Terry Moore, or Art Adams, of course. You start to see like a whole bunch, but every now and then you're like, well, look at this, totally random independent person doing like a Who's Who entry, and it's really kind of cool. And they're usually the ones that are creative and different. And, I do like that. Wait, okay, so I have a game for you. So this is inspired by Pants bringing this out to you. So I was going to bring this up a couple episodes ago, but then we get in a groove. So let me see. I was going to have you guys write it down, but I can write stuff down. Okay, so I did another reorganization of my books because I'm a crazy fool. And it was less of a reorganization. It was more kind of like just like I wanted to spread my collection out so I could get to them better, because they're all sort of piled up 3 boxes deep. And I was like, let me do two boxes. So of course I start reorganizing, and then that's always disastrous,
That's a rabbit hole.
It's like High Fidelity. You just constantly
I love that movie.
Yes. Wait, how are these organized? It's not alphabetical. Is it chronological?
By breakup.
No, he's like, he says autobiographical.
Yeah, right.
The order that he bought the albums. I love that. That movie was such my life about one of my past relationships. So anyway, so I also during the pandemic, I inventoried all my books at the time on a spreadsheet, right? Like, so all my books, and even including like things that I've sold. Like, I know exactly what I've had,
So you know everything you've ever bought.
Everything I've ever bought is on that spreadsheet.
Oh my God.
And in my record books now, and because I'm anal. I mean, those record books go back to like 1985, 86. Like, I can go, here's what I bought at Golden Eagle on whatever day that was. I don't have it with me. So yeah, or at Pagoda, or at Brave New World, or all those conventions we went to.
Right.
I wrote everything down.
Oh my God.
Okay. So maybe
this is why we were able to do this show, people. Collectively, our bizarre, personality thing, make for an interesting show. Okay, sorry, Peter. Go ahead.
Really, no, you're right, because what I lack, you make up, and what you lack, someone else makes up, and like it's the same with publishers. It's the same.
I lack.
No, you came in and you brought the whole original art to our world and like Silver Age stuff, you know,
And a lot of the TV stuff.
and
I
TV
mean,
stuff. Yeah,
I like old radio shows, but I don't know as much as you do about old TV shows.
yeah. So I get frustrated, and maybe this will bomb, and maybe I'll cut the whole thing of it. But when you're doing your spreadsheets, all right, okay. So we're gonna go with Batman. All right. So when say you have the title Batman, that's easy enough, right? I'm gonna write it down. Batman. Yep. All right.
Yep.
Okay.
Then you have a title that says Batman, Urban Legends. Okay, that's going to come after Batman, right? Okay.
After Batman.
After Batman,
I like this conversation already. Keep it going. Keep it going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, was this the cover title or on the Indicia?
Fuck the Indicia. It's cover
the
title.
Indicia. Oh, I have a problem with that, young man.
I want the cover title. Just take the. I'm just giving you the title. Okay. So now we got Batman, Urban Legends. All right. Batman Beyond. Where does that go?
Before the one with the colon.
Yes, after Batman.
After Batman. Batman Beyond, Batman Urban Legends.
No.
Yes.
No, because it's Batman is the title, right? And then Batman Urban Legends. So then after that should be Batman Beyond. Because what if it was Batman Beyond or Urban Legends? Right? You see where I'm going?
Yeah. All right. You have a point.
Right? Like, okay, so Batman like the title is Batman, the secondary. So isn't the main titles Batman? Like that should be Batman Beyond. That's like, that's the main thing, right?
I always did it with, like, if you use Batman for an example, still Batman Beyond.
So you're
Batman
going
Batman with a number would probably, like, Batman 1, 2, 3. If that was the title, that would come before Batman punctuation title.
Ooh,
for me.
Interesting. So, like, where would Batman space apostrophe 89 go? Wait, is it Batman apostrophe or is it just Batman 66, right?
Yeah.
Oh, is it an apostrophe or whatever the hell that's called? Yeah, it's Batman
apostrophe
60,
89.
I feel like what's the piano player?
Victor Borgia.
Yeah,
Victor Borgia.
Yeah. So where does Batman?
Yeah.
Does Batman apostrophe 6? Does that come before Batman Beyond? It should, right? No, don't numbers usually go before it? No.
Okay.
I put numbers based on the letter that the number starts with.
Exactly.
Holy shit.
No, that I don't do.
SIX comes after Sins of the Father. You'd put Sins of the Father, then Batman 66.
But it's
I'm going
number.
through the Overstreet, baby.
Oh, fuck those guys. Fuck those guys.
I use
I
use
do
a
it.
number separately. I use a number separately. I did at one time do it that way, but I don't now. And to go 66 with the apostrophe or not, because I know that's a year and it's supposed to be 1966,
Right.
I just put it as the number in a number order, not 1966, whatever, just 66 is a number, so that goes later.
So but you still do it alphabetically like they're saying?
No, it's Batman Beyond, Batman number, Batman colon. That's how I would do it. Punctuation would come after
I see.
numbers.
So what would you do? Oh, see, now we're going all over the place. So what would you do?
But I wouldn't consider that apostrophe to be punctuation in my order. That would just go in the number.
I see what you're saying.
But I read you just for shits and giggles.
Okay.
The first paragraph of the first, right before the first entry in Overstreet.
Oh, God.
The correct title listing for each comic book can be determined by consulting the Indicia publication data on the beginning interior pages of the comic. The official title is determined by those words of the title in capital letters only and not by what is on the cover. Titles are listed in this book as if they were one word, ignoring spaces, hyphens, and apostrophes to make finding titles easier. Exceptions are made in rare cases. Comic books listed should be assumed to be in color. Unless, well, okay, so
Now wait a
well,
minute.
that's what I always went
But they
by.
lost you when they said exceptions can be made. Nope.
Right.
Well, yeah, you can always make an exception.
Wait, so
This
they
is our hill, and these are our beans.
because see, okay, so let me go back to let me just stick with the colon, right? Okay, so Batman colon.
By the way, thanks again for keep mentioning colon. I have a colonoscopy on Monday. Thanks again for reminding me.
Is that your first one?
My fourth one.
Oh Jesus! Oh
Well, there's
yeah.
there's a family history.
Okay,
So I'll be spending Sunday, you know where.
I have yet to have somebody stick that up my butt yet. So.
You should
I've
seriously
had
have one.
I have
done.
to get another one.
Seriously, come
It's
on.
time. It's time for me to get another one.
They do them now without. You don't need a colonoscopy anymore. Look,
I
have
know,
this
yeah,
cake
collar
home.
guard.
I
Color
got,
guard.
yeah, I gotta take a dump on a thing and then take a little sample to.
Well, but again, I have a family history, so I,
Somehow we talk about our old age problems.
Old geek speak.
I got my doctor appointment
So
Sunday. I get the results of my test.
Is this going to be a Patreon only video when you do it? Gonna take a dump on
Here's how you use the color
Colon
It's
guard.
for my OnlyFans, Peter.
colon geek speak.
No, so I love that. Actually, as a computer programmer, I love the idea that the sort field would be the full title, removing all punctuation just as one continuous word with no spaces, and then the computer will just automatically sort that alphabetically, and there's no discussion. Then it's like this is the order, right?
There's a
and-
good simplicity to that.
And you would spell out numbers because, I mean, numbers have a sort order before letters. So they, like in math, that's how it works. Like in the computer world, they have a number. Everything has a number underneath the covers, and the numbers are the first, like 0 is the first one. And then,
Okay.
And then the alphabet starts, and then all the weird symbols and stuff like later. Right. So like they do technically come first, but I like the idea of like spelling it out. I don't, then there's like, it's all just letters. We're sorting on letters only. And
Oh, I
it's
see.
just,
I see. What
right,
you're
because the
simple.
first entry is the A's here, not number one.
Yeah.
saying.
And that does make sense. Just when I sort my comics, it's always titles, then titles with numbers, then titles with punctuation, and a secondary title.
Yeah, I mean, my and there by no means am I saying that my inventory is uniform. My own, I break my own rules, throughout. Like I'm pretty sure World's Finest Comics, the original World's Finest Volume 1, right? It's under W, right, for World's Finest Comics. But I put Superman, Batman, the Jeff Loeb one from the 2000s, under World's Finest, like in my W's, because it's technically a World's Finest comic, but it's not titled that.
Technically, come on.
I also store it in my W's, like
Exceptions can be made, it says here.
And some of the way I think is because most times when you're talking, especially Batman punctuation, some other secondary title, it's a miniseries. So I also always kept regular series, then miniseries after.
You don't mix them in like chronologically, like
Not- I have in the past, but generally I don't.
yeah. Like if you go through my Batman, it's the ones I have left. Like it's like, here's a Brave and the Bold issue. Oh, here's Batman 400. Oh, here's Batman Dark Knight Returns. And then it's Death in the Family. And then it's like, now here's a Batman, then a detective, then a Batman, then a detective.
Did
insane.
reorganize my collection like that one time, and I had a hard time finding certain things because it was driving me nuts because I don't have an inventory by year like that. So then, and it was probably before the internet was so big that everything was on it for comics that way. So then I'm like, nope, forget this. And I reorganized it back the way I originally had it.
I was gonna tell that price guide that you had to F off a second time, because I was like, they sort of gave themselves an out because they said only capitalized, right? words.
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
from the Indicia, yes.
Yeah, because everything would be under the if they didn't, right? Because it would be the Batman, whatever. It would be, everything would have to be under T.
And things like the way like take DC for example, again going with Batman because it does happen. Sometimes it's Detective Comics, sometimes it's Batman Detective Comics.
Oh,
so I always put it under Detective Comics.
But did you look in the Indicia inside? I mean, like the cover is one thing. The cover can say anything you want.
Yeah.
What goes on that help publish it and gets in Library of Congress information?
Yeah. So anytime like Detective Comics, if I was doing an old school Detective Comics in the 80s and 90s, and then it changed to Batman Detective Comics, that just was the next Detective Comics that went in there.
Yeah,
because I know it's Detective Comics.
I just thought that would be fun because it's almost like it's impossible to me because it's like, then what about, I mean, I guess if we go with the price guide, Batman, what do you do with Batman and the Outsiders? How do you not include "and the" in the title, right? Like they say they don't include the capitals. Well, Batman, they're not capitalized on the title.
No, but did you look in the Indicia?
Yeah, are they in the Indicia?
Right.
How many times do we have to say this, Peter?
All right, I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look up, see if it's. All right, hold on. Talk amongst yourself.
I think there's your episode title. Fuck the Indicia.
I don't think we can.
Now there was a time where I organized everything by character too. So like all the Batmans were together, Batman Detective and all that. And then there was a time when it was DC and Marvel separated and all the characters together. I didn't like that either. Then I got rid of almost every Marvel comic I own, so that would made it easy.
I think it's like a thing when you're younger, that's how it starts out. It's like I got my box for DC and my box for Marvel, my box for other. Yeah. And then you start to like you fill up that box and then you're like, well, I got to get another box, but so how do I my other now I have Image or you have Dark Horse and so I have a separate thing for and then it's like, oh, this is ridiculous.
Yep.
And then you just end up going the only answer is alphabetical everything. And so like, cause I used to do Batman with my detectives and everything, cause it was all just my Batman box or whatever. Yep. And then it's like, nope. But it's too complicated. You just go straight alphabetical and everything's so much easier.
Now over the years, selling some things off, but keeping like a tie-in issue to Crisis or something like that. Those I do put in. So if you look at my Crisis on Infinite Earths, all that's in order of release of every issue tied to Crisis on Infinite Earths. So that if you pulled the box out, you could start with issue 1 of Crisis and read through the entire series the way it came out in stores.
So the Indicia for Batman and the Outsiders #5. But it's all capital. Every letter's capital. Batman and the Outsiders.
So then that's
that's the title.
Yeah, that's the title that's put in.
Yeah. And now, see, that's something that doesn't bother me, like Batman and the Outsiders. But to me, like I would put that after anything that was just Batman, even if there was like a colon or whatever, because to me, the book really is
a separate title.
It's Batman and the Outsiders. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where
that's what I would do too.
That's probably where I differ from the guide, because the guide probably goes Batman and the Outsiders, Batman, Dark Knight Returns,
Batman Beyond goes before Batman and the Outsiders, because again, they're actually 3 separate titles. So I would, in the grand scheme of things, I would put Batman and everything Batman related, like Legends of the Dark Knight, Shadow of the Bat, Batman : Batman numbers, or Batman numbers, Batman : however I said I do it, and then Batman Beyond, Batman and the Outsiders, like they because they're all separate titles.
They're separate concepts almost.
Well, Batman and the Outsiders is before Batman Beyond in the guide.
Yeah. Because you take away the space and A is before B. Done.
Yeah.
I love this. If I ever have comics again, that's how I'm going to organize it.
Now wait. They said they disregard punctuation, right? Yeah. Isn't that what the guide said?
Yeah.
Well,
and spell out numbers.
This says in the Indicia, it says Archie meets Batman '66. In the Indicia.
So they eliminate the apostrophe.
Archie meets Batman.
Yeah, but
then
what about? I
66.
thought they say they disregard the
punctuation.
They disregard when they win. No, not. They disregard it when they're alphabetizing. You don't. It's there, but you don't.
Yeah.
I got you.
Okay. Oh, read that again.
Overpriced price guide is what that should be called.
These guys were doing this for since 1970, I think.
If there's one thing we know about comics, between retailers and anybody that's in charge of something, they all should stop being in charge of stuff. So. Times change.
Yeah, but the alphabet doesn't.
Oh, here's another thing.
Another thing. Oh, but wait, there's more.
Do you?
Hold on.
This just came up to me because first of all, I can't do punctuation to begin with anyway. It took me a while to figure out what a colon was. I was like, am I saying that right? Yeah. When you do, anybody does inventories, like if you do it like on a spreadsheet or if you do like an app or something like that. Volumes. Let's talk volumes. Batman Volume 1, Batman Volume 2. I tend to only use the word volume when it comes to a series. I don't use volume when it comes to a mini series. So for instance, Amethyst, what would be a good one? What's a good one to like Green Arrow had a 4-issue miniseries, and then Green Arrow Longbow Hunters before the Mike Grell long series, right?
Yep.
For me, Green Arrow Volume 1 is the series, not the 4-issue miniseries.
You're wrong.
Well,
of course, I know the guide is not going to say that.
Right.
In those instances, like if you take the Longbow Hunters and then the next series, that's how it goes in order. So if there was a regular Green Arrow series, then the Longbow Hunters, then the Mike Grell series, that's how it would be organized to me.
Yeah.
In that chronological order that way.
And I would certainly file them that way, in my collection, but inventory wise.
But you're saying, Peter, if there was often this is the case, like they introduce some new character or something, there's a 4-issue miniseries, and then a year goes by and they're like, we're starting a full series. You're saying that full series to you is Volume 1. The miniseries doesn't count?
Yes.
See, I can't agree with that.
It's Green Arrow Volume 1, the first title to have that
because
Volume 1.
And if the first series just failed and was canceled after 4 issues, then that would be Volume 1. And then the second series that went 16 issues would be Volume 2.
If it was a series, sure. Yeah.
Well, it is. It's just a short series.
If it's a specific miniseries, like called a miniseries, like you have JLA, and then you have I don't know, what was the one with Zuriel? JLA Heaven something.
Yeah, I know.
That would be a miniseries after the JLA series ended. So if 100 issues of JLA are there, then that's just the miniseries. But
those don't count. Like to go back to Green Arrow, if you go with the 4-issue miniseries as Volume 1, Green Arrow Longbow Hunters is not Volume 2 because technically the title is a different title, right? Yeah. Green Arrow, the series, would be Volume 2. Because I argue this with Legion because Legion of Superheroes was pulling out that fucking price guide.
It's right here in the writing. It's typed right here.
Because it starts off with Superboy, right? Then it goes to Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. But, and I know the price guide is going to say this, in the Indicia, it doesn't become Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes until it's on the cover, but not on the Indicia right away, okay? Then it becomes Legion of Superheroes around some issue number. I can't remember right now. And some people call that Volume 1, okay? But it's not Volume 1. It was the old Superboy title renamed, okay? But then they put out a reprint series of Legion of Superheroes for 6 issues or something like that. Then they called that Volume 1, but it's all reprint material. So for me, I consider the Baxter run Legion of Superheroes, which was the first Legion of Superheroes to have a number 1 with new material. That to me is Volume 1 because it's technically the old Legion of Superheroes title was just retitled from Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. And the reprint series shouldn't count because it's a fucking reprint,
That's fine in your world. In the world of reality, that is the third series.
That's insane. How can Legion of Superheroes?
The name Legion of Superheroes was first used as a series on those reprints in the Indicia. Look it up, young man.
Wait, okay, so what are they saying is volume 2?
Formerly Superboy and Tales of the Legion.
How can you have a volume?
259 is considered the beginning of the second volume.
It's the middle of a title.
But that has the name Legion of Superheroes in the Indicia. That's what we're going by.
If the numbering for Superboy and the Legion of
Raise your left
Superheroes,
hand, put your right hand on the Bible here, sir. Come on.
if the numbering for Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes is 1 to 50, and then 51 is Legion of Superheroes, that's one title to me. That's still volume 1 of Legion of Superheroes.
They're saying because it went from Superboy to Superboy and the Legion and then Legion of Superheroes, technically the price guide is saying those are 3 different volumes. Yeah. Even though the numbering keeps going.
Hey, you do you. It all goes back.
The same thing happens with Justice League. Justice League 1 through what is it, 6, and then 7's International. No, that's the same numberings continue.
Yeah. And then they go Justice League America, like not even Justice League of America. It's Justice League America, right? Like, same thing with Europe.
And it still continues the numbering. So that to me is one series.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. That's a part where I sort of agree with you guys. Like, if the numbers continue, it doesn't matter to me if the title changes. I mean, it's like a little gray area, I guess. I'm not necessarily agreeing, but it feels wrong to call it like a volume something.
Yeah.
When it's the same numbering, when it resets at number 1, it's I got no problem with that.
Right. Because didn't they use, like, magazines use volumes a lot, but volumes was based almost on year, right? Or something.
Yeah, a lot of times. Yeah.
So it could be Time Magazine number 53, but volume 4 because it's been 4 years later or something like that, right? Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
That's true. Like the newspaper does it too. Like the Inquirer, it's technically like volume, 196 or something this year. So,
because think of all those Marvel titles, everything that's like Thor spun out of Journey into Mystery and Flash comics to Flash, right?
But different names.
The same numbering now.
Well, that was only different numbering, yes, but that's still Flash. Volume 1 with 105 being the first issue.
With Barry Allen.
Yes, Barry Allen. Because that was Flash Comics with Jay Garrick from 1 to 104.
Right. So Flash
This was the Flash.
So Flash with Barry Allen you're saying that's
volume 1 of the Flash.
Yeah, so then why is Legion volume 1 and why didn't no. Okay. They said it's volume 2.
Who said it's volume 2?
The price guide. You just said the price guide said that when Legion switched over from Superboy and the Legion, you called it volume 2.
Yes, because the reprint used the title Legion of Superheroes in the Indicia for those few issues in the early 70s.
So why is Flash? Flash comics to Flash, it shouldn't make a difference. It's still the same title. It's still the same.
It's not
numbering.
Look at the numbering.
It's the same numbering.
Sure.
Look, here's the thing. I'm going to throw the wrench in the works, right? We all know the numbering is complete bullshit because like all these companies now have done in 1987 we started, or 1997 we started a new number 1, and now it's 2015 and we're all feeling nostalgic, so we're returning to the original numbering, and suddenly it's issue 487. So like the numbers kind of mean nothing.
It does now.
The volumes and stuff actually maybe makes sense.
I think in this day and age currently, that's true. I think before DC and Marvel started renumbering like crazy, but now that they have, and not just once or twice, I mean, we're talking over the last 15 years, multiple times of renumbering every major title. That becomes a problem now.
I mean, Avengers or whatever has to be up to like volume 27. I mean, it's crazy, right? There's so many. They just keep doing it. Same with X-Men or whatever.
Spider-Man is another one like that. Daredevil.
And then yet when there's an anniversary issue 500. Wait. it just restarted 3 months ago with number 1. What do you mean?
Yeah. And then they get to like 507 and they get bored and they're like, issue 1. Hey.
Yeah.
So Avengers, they are on volume number 8 currently.
Oh my God.
And the reason why they say that, but yet, Avengers volume 8, okay, yeah, it started with a number 1. It was relaunched from Avengers number 690 from the volume 1. But that don't make sense because it was interrupted by, the god-awful Heroes Reborn shit and, so it's...
Yep.
Ugh.
I thought that'd be a fun little exploration.
Oh, that was
a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was good.
That was a
We're
good
gonna
one.
get a lot of hate mail about that. There'll be like the most, or not hate mail, but there'll be a heated discussion on the Facebook thread about this.
Yeah. I agree.
Look, every collection and every inventory is like a snowflake. They're all different. Everybody's different. There's no like a thumbprint. Everybody's, there's no way. I'm sure if we like went to each other's collections and like that would be a fun game, right? Okay, I want you to look up and try to find. I mean, Pants is out of it because that will.
Yeah.
That's not gonna work. I did get it.
Go ahead.
Well, wait. Let me do this because you mentioned about people sending stuff in. Kurt Matilla, he wrote. We were emailing back and forth, and he said, "Where's it at? Well, I wanted to say, as a longtime listener of both of CGS, these Golden Eagle-esque reunion episodes with you and the geeks are a sublime delight to the ears and the soul. It's really interesting to hear, like a band doing a reunion tour, how quickly everyone settled into their roles and opinions. It was like listening to a lost episode. I hope you guys can find the time to record more, et cetera, et cetera. Hope you have a good Thanksgiving. And then Shane on Twitter, a different Shane, obviously.
It's like, I don't go on Twitter.
I think he might be from Northern Ireland. I think he has N-Irish boy on there, or guy, or something like that. I'm not sure. He says, just want to thank you for getting together again, even though it's not as many eps a week as it was back in the heyday. I really appreciate these new sessions. So,
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Brian?
I was going to say I read this Golden Age book.
Oh, yeah.
I did not get to read it in the end.
Pants, did you read it?
I did not, but I'm interested to hear about it because, I'm not going to buy it or read it, but is it the Geoff Johns one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on the app.
It's like a one shot, right? That then leads into some new JSA series that's coming out, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I kind of thought the issue was trash, to be honest.
Okay.
Did you read it, Peter?
Yeah, I read it.
It was like every 2 pages was different characters, and I don't know how any of it connected to each other. And like, I was just like, what am I even reading? Like, it did not, if I didn't have this subscription to the app, this issue would 100% not get me to buy JSA number 1. Now I will read JSA number 1 because I love the JSA. I have in the past loved the JSA, and since I can read it for free, I'm going to read it, right? Like,
yeah.
So, but like, I don't know what this issue was trying to do, but it didn't do it for me.
It's I don't know if because there's several different storylines or time settings, right? Like one takes place in the present, one takes place in the Golden Age, one takes place in the Legion time.
There's stuff in the 70s going on in there.
Right. It really bounces around a lot because it has to do with time and all that other stuff. And then what they did was certain artists are used for certain eras. So Jerry Ordway is for the Golden Age JSA stuff because that just makes sense because Jerry Ordway has been drawing, these characters for decades,
Sure.
So I don't know if that necessarily worked in its favor. I think it would have worked better if it was still all of this time jumping, but not interrupting each other. Like if you were just read the Golden Age chapter and then read another chapter, because the bouncing back and forth doesn't do it a favor. You know what I mean? Because it's like you constantly have to think about who's where are we? Because the artwork isn't that unique and different that, you know. I
just wasn't really sure how the different things connected. It felt just disjointed to me, and I was like, okay, I don't really know what I'm supposed to care about, you know?
Yeah, and plus it also has echoes to Flashpoint Beyond, which just wrapped up, which was a 6-issue miniseries by Geoff Johns, which was a sequel to Flashpoint before the New 52 started, right? So it's like Geoff Johns is, you know, now mining that material. It also has echoes from Doomsday Clock, which Geoff Johns wrote. Really, what I think it comes down to is this all feels like 5 or 6 years too late. Like this was the stuff that was really going on about 5-6 years ago within the DC universe. But I'm still intrigued because it's putting the Justice Society back in the DC universe, which I'm sort of curious to see how they do it.
Yeah, me too.
Huntress is the point person, which is curious because they've had several different versions of Huntress in the last.
Yeah, which volume years. Huntress is this, Peter?
Yeah, right, exactly. Touche. Wait, did she start off with a miniseries or a series? I don't remember. Anyway,
series.
The thing I do like about it that he does well.
Looking it up.
Yeah. I like the mystery of these new characters that supposedly have been part of the DC universe, but this all happened in Flashpoint Beyond, so I don't know. They were like removed from the time stream and now are being put back into it. So that's interesting to me because there's some connections to other larger DC universe stuff. It doesn't feel like when you read the JSA series, the JSA issue that we talked about, you know, a little bit the last time around, you know, it also had the same kind of mystery with like some mysterious character killing people and you weren't sure why, but it was all contained within sort of one story or one generation. It was now. This is dealing with like 8 different generations of legacy characters, so it gets confusing. So I totally, when I was reading it, I think I even probably was like, I don't think Brian's going to dig this one because it's not quite.
It's not very straightforward.
Yeah, well, no, not even because of that. It's because even I was like, oh, this is jumping around a little too much for me. Like, but I'm still curious because we haven't had a JSA book in a long time.
Yeah,
and there was some interesting and John's, you know, is just loving poking that Alan Moore bear and just sticking in these Watchmen characters and from Doomsday Clock, and it's just like, damn, they got balls of steel, you know. So I'm sort of curious what they do with that. But you might like it, Pants, actually, because it's got some Golden Age sidekick characters that some are established and some are totally new, and they're quirky, and then there's a whole bunch of Who's Who pages in the back, which are like, wow.
Oh, wow.
You had me at Jerry Ordway artwork, too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah. Again, time.
It's a quick read.
I get that they're pretty much done with superhero comics for a while.
That's a shame. It's got Batwoman.
I've been done with comics for quite a while, actually, a couple of years. So
what do you like? It's got Batwoman. It's got Barry Allen. It doesn't.
Nice try.
Yeah.
You can probably say no to this. I mean, you can say no to this if you want. If something came out like that, where they would put your dream team of characters together that you traditionally have always followed, would you consider reading it? Maybe not buying it or picking it up, but if someone got your way to read it, would you read that issue to see Batwoman, Barry Allen just together doing something?
Batwoman mud wrestle Barry Allen.
One issue, okay, I'll make an exception for one issue, but it's like I'm not really looking to get invested in anything else at all. I'm sort of at the point where it's like I'm so lost. I don't want to get back in. I don't want to find out what happened. I just don't care. You know, give me my black and white TV shows.
There's a lot that I don't read for a similar reason that I just choose not to. I mean, I do pick up on the app and whatnot, certain things that interest me, but I'd rather try to find time to read some of the things I've never read before that I know are good that I just haven't read. In that way, because like you, Pants, there's some stuff about Marvel and DC that I'm just lost on now, and I don't know that I care to figure that out all the time. I'd rather just read something that I know is good that I haven't and never got to read yet.
Yeah. And when I was organizing the books, it so happened I was going to my books. Ooh, I got to read that. And it's like, no, I don't want to do it.
Wait, then why do you have your books then?
I'm trying to get rid of them, as I've been trying to say. But, I want to keep some things, but like some stuff, it's like, no,
Yeah.
Well, Shane, we talked about it briefly, RetroCon next year.
Yeah. Yeah, to sell all kinds of stuff that we have.
I don't know. Maybe we should go to Golden Eagle and be like, what are you doing with that big back room? Like, let's have a flea market for one weekend or something and just bring some books. God. Then we don't have to travel, down
they would probably love it because it would draw some business.
It might, we pick a weekend. And
well, how many people have been over the years saying of some maybe like sort of informal CGS gathering again? Bring our books and buy our books, guys. We'll do it.
Books and toys.
I mean, if we talked about it on the show, a bunch of people would come. It wouldn't be as big as Super Show or anything, right? But we'd probably get 20 people, maybe 30 people to show up at Golden Eagle on some Saturday, right? If we did this.
Yeah.
And if they all bought some of our crap and bought a couple things from Scott, how would it not be worth it for Scott to have the whoever CGS members who want to set up some shit on the table, right? Like, come on.
And I mean,
even if I had to give Scott $10 for the table or whatever, it's fine. Like it's guaranteed sale, or I'll buy a trade paperback from you and you let me set up shop on the, I don't know.
Yeah, he can have a sale at his store and
right.
We be in the back room selling some stuff, and we make it totally informal, no recording or anything. We're just there and just set up and sell somewhere. Bring your crates of toys, and have people dig through them and sell them out. So I don't know. I think we could do that. What was I going to say? I was going to say something. The other thing about that one shot is, like, I do usually like DC's one shots, like when they do this, because they usually have a little more value, a little more weight to them in terms of like the larger universe, like that DC 80-page countdown, like DC Rebirth. Like usually the one shots are really good. And this one is sort of in that flavor. The problem is I don't feel like the rest of the even though I don't read a lot or I'm not caught up, it doesn't feel like it's really going to spread, like not even like an event, just here's all these bits and pieces, and this is going to happen in the Superman book, and this is going to happen. No, it's going to happen in Justice Society and Stargirl, and maybe somewhere else, but that's it. So it feels a little like, in one way, it feels contained, which I guess is good because that's some people like that. In another way, it almost feels like it's not going to matter because it's a couple years late, so.
Well, and I was at first very excited, but then more reality kind of set in my head, thinking I'm not going to expect too much because I don't think they're going to capture lightning in a bottle again for how that first JSA series that we read in the 90s,
right,
or 2000s, gosh, I can't remember what it was when it started, how that came about.
Yeah, even the second.
Which volume will this be now? I'm sorry. Poke the bear.
I don't know. Check the Indicia.
That's hysterical.
Hey, Shane, you listen to audiobooks sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So, as a sci-fi lover, I want to recommend a series to you. So, it's called Expeditionary Force. And I think now it's up to like book 13 or something, but I'm on like book 7 or 8. It's like an alien invasion. That's like the thing. And the first book, like the first half of the book, it's entertaining, but it's like a fairly straightforward, like military sci-fi thing. Okay. And then pretty much halfway through the book, the hook hits you. And then you ride that the whole series so far, right? And again, I'm on like book 8 and it's just like phenomenal, right? And the reader reads all the books and he's amazing. And he really adds a lot of depth to the characters and stuff. And I just think, I think you'll really like it. Check it out. It's on Audible or whatever. I mean, it might be an Audible exclusive or it might be everywhere. I'm not sure, but it's very good. I think you will like it. Again, I think like the first half, pretty just run of the mill, entertaining, but not like exceptional. But then you hit that hook and then you're like, oh, this is why this series is so great. And then you just keep reading. Yeah. So
I'll put it on the list.
Yeah.
Are you all excited for Avatar 2?
No.
Oh,
I never saw the first one.
I haven't seen it.
Never saw the first one. No.
I saw it in the theater because it was like, to me, Avatar is only exists as a 3D movie. And if you didn't see it as a 3D movie, it's nothing special, right? As a 3D movie, it was the most impressive film I've ever seen, right? Like, because he did visual, like the whole movie is 3D, not a couple scenes here and there. Like it was conceived and filmed as a 3D movie, right? And after I saw it, I was convinced that movies had changed forever and that there were going to be 3D auteurs, just like, you go to see a Quentin Tarantino movie, you go to see a Scorsese movie, you're going to go to see a blah, blah, blah movie because it's going to be a 3D and that's going to have to see it at the theater. And like, it's going to be like a whole new generation of filmmakers will be like, 3D is now a thing. And then all the studios went, wow, it made the most money of any movie ever. Let's make 3D movies. And they just give you a couple shots that weren't actually conceived as 3D. They just 3D-ized them, which is bullshit because he actually thought about that movie and storyboarded that whole movie as a 3D experience. Like every single shot has depth. The whole movie is alive in front of your eyes in a way that I've never experienced any movie ever. But that is all like the visual, the actual plot and the things and the characters. I'm like, I didn't really care about any of it. Like it was fine. It was very average. It wasn't like terrible or anything. But to watch that movie on HBO or something, like who cares? Like it's totally forgettable. And so I'm very curious that he's got like 5 movies planned or something crazy. And it's not 3D. It's just like a movie now. It's like, but that was the whole shtick for the first one, was the incredible 3D gift that you gave the cinematic world. Like I can't stress enough how incredible it was to see that in 3D. But as a regular movie, totally run of the mill. I don't know.
Okay.
But there's a lot of people who love it. So like, I'm happy for them to go see Avatar 2. And when it comes out on HBO or something, like I'll watch it out of curiosity. Maybe it'll be amazing. And maybe I'll get sucked into, the whole world, right? I'm open to that experience, but I'm not going to go out of my way to see it. Let's put it that way.
After all these years, if they re-release the first one in 3D, I would consider going to see it just because I've heard so many people say how visually spectacular it was. I don't care for the story from what I've heard. Just, like you said, it sounds average. But I would be curious to see it in that environment that it was created for.
I really think it's worthwhile. As anyone who enjoys cinema, I think it's an experience unlike any other that you can see, because it's never really been done before, not to this level, like not with this much thought. Again, I don't think there was a single scene, and I'd be surprised if there were scenes that they're just like shot it and just like, yeah, we don't know what to do with this in 3D. Like the camera angles are like, people are walking and there's things in the foreground and the background. It's not like a lot of scenes in regular movies are just sort of very flat. Like there's people sitting in front of the desk. No, it's like there's a person behind the desk and the thing, and there's a thing and the camera moves around and there's something in the foreground that's constantly making you remember that you're in a 3D world, right? It was very intentional.
I'd like to get to the point with a movie experience at some point before I die where your visual perception goes a little bit beyond just flat world. I'd like to get to where that's where you're watching. I mean, things don't have to move around necessarily, but I'd love to sit in a theater that's sort of panoramic that way. And you can just catch it off the peripheral like you would be if you're walking down the street.
Have you been to the Franklin?
What's that?
The Franklin Institute, the IMAX at the Franklin Institute is like super domed. Like the whole thing is curved.
I don't know if I've ever been inside that.
It's pretty intense. It's like a little disarming because it's so big and so around you.
Did you do that ride? Like they fly you over Philadelphia and you're sort of all in, it's almost like, it's not a ride.
I saw Everest. Right.
Yeah.
I saw Everest there in IMAX like back in the 90s. I think I saw it twice. And then a couple of years ago, they did a 70 millimeter like film of Dunkirk. So I took my dad.
Oh, wow.
Because I had already seen Dunkirk, and it was just an incredible movie. I could talk about that movie for hours. It's so amazing. But it was disappointing because it was very dark and the audio was muddied. So like there were whole scenes that you like couldn't really see. And I'm like, I just saw this movie like 2 months ago and it looked gorgeous. And it's like a physical film, 70 millimeter, huge film. And it was just like, what do we want? And you couldn't hardly understand a word anybody was saying because like the speakers were all like blown out or something. It was like, I think you need to upgrade your equipment, guys. Yeah, it's a shame. But the screen is impressive. I think the film looks good.
I think someone in the UK was like showing, they were at a movie theater and it looked like it was almost three, like one screen and then two screen, but it wasn't curved. It was sort of like flat. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah. I would think curved would be better, but
yeah, because it curves not just around, it's like a dome.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is
what I'd like to see.
And your seats, you're like tilted, like angled, right? So you're
forward.
Like staring up at this. Yeah, it's really intense. Like, and if you have like vertigo, just walking to your seat is like, oh God, what is it? Like we sat in the middle and then we had to get up and move all the way to the back row because it was like too much.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Well, that's good to know. Because traditionally you pick the middle because it makes the most sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I bet seeing Interstellar and something like that would be amazing.
Oh my God.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah. That's my benchmark movie in terms of like science fiction, where are we in the universe kind of mentality, you know what I mean? Like just some of it's the move. I wanted to see that in the movie theater and my ex did not. And I made the mistake of not just going by myself because I knew that was going to be an experience. And
is that the Matthew McConaughey one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I did not see that yet, actually.
Oh,
so I mean, I know that just things I have seen of it. It looks visually spectacular. And I do think I watched the first like 20 minutes on some streaming thing in the recent months, but I haven't sat down to finish it.
I mean, it's Christopher Nolan as a movie maker. It's not like I'm the first to say that he's amazing, but that was the movie that I really, even beyond like the Batman movies, that was the movie that just like went right to my heart because I love space. I loved the plot of it, the story of it, the emotional aspect of it, the futurism of it, the way they researched to just get things correct and just how trippy some of the planets were. And I wound up, the first time I saw it was like 2 a.m. And it was like perfect time. It was just like on my laptop watching it and watched it a second time immediately because I was like, this movie is it just hit me like at the right sweet spot. So,
did you watch Tenet, Peter?
I did.
Oh my God.
It's a little frustrating. It's a little confusing.
It's crazy, but like the visuals and the hook, like it's so mind-bendingly original. Like, oh my God. I was like overload, but in a good way.
Right.
Oh,
I'll take Christopher Nolan's messy movie over any other director's perfect movie. You know what I mean? Like it's just, and I'm that way with a lot of things. I like to see things that are, you sort of watch it and you go like the Golden Age one shot we just talked about. Like I'm like, yeah, this is, it's not, but I get what but Tenet was, especially once it got to the actual meat of it, like in this last third act of it, and you're like, whoa, wait, that doesn't make sense. But wait, like and you can sort of figure out the ending, or at least I figured out some of the ending.
Yeah.
And not that it's a mystery, but I was like, I haven't gone back to it yet because I was like,
yeah, me neither. Right?
Do I just want to let that experience go? And like,
I want to re-experience it again, but I'm waiting a little bit so I forget, so that when I watch it like fresh again. I just love how it's like they're going backwards, but their bodies are moving forwards, but it's backwards. Like, how did they do it? Like, I don't even understand what I'm watching, but it's so cool.
And
Show me more.
How they filmed it, or how they had to film it. And
I know. It's like, what is?
Yeah, he really is an amazing filmmaker.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen Dunkirk, and I want to, and just
no, I didn't see it either, but that one looks really good.
Oh, yeah, it's and it won the Oscar for sound editing, and when you watch it, you will totally understand. Like, we could do an entire episode on Dunkirk, and like, I want you guys to go watch it, and then we'll just talk about like we'll do special. It won't be a number. It'll be volume 17, and we'll just talk about Dunkirk. I swear to God.
What's Indicia say on it, though?
It's such a great movie. And in similar vein to Dunkirk, this is totally an aside, but 1917.
17.
Did you see that, Peter?
That I did, yeah. That was the one that was almost a continuous shot, basically.
The whole movie is a continuous shot.
Right? Well, I mean, yeah. Sort of
obviously,
like with Rope that they did, the cutaways, right?
Yeah, but like, it's a 2-hour long war movie
there on the edge
that's
of your seat,
one shot. It is the most exhilarating. Like, it's intense because you're just like, oh my God. Like, what's it gonna and it's so well done. It's not like they just did it for the shtick. It's like, it's a great movie. One of the best, like, accomplishments I've seen in a long time. Like, he did something special there.
Sam Mendes. I mean, he's he's got great movies. He does great theater, like he's done a couple of theater productions that are just like, now, like the one I can think of the most is Cabaret. Like, when he redid Cabaret in the 90s, I'm trying to look it up. It is now the version that everybody does. They no longer do. Yeah, they no longer do the original Joel Grey version, Liza Minnelli. They do this sort of new, dirtier, grittier, rougher, more authentic to the time period. And so that doesn't surprise me. When you say movies with one shot, what did you think of One Shot? What did you think of Birdman?
I didn't see it yet.
Oh,
no, me either.
Okay.
It's been a while. I saw, I think, just once.
Okay.
I mean, I liked it. I saw some of the behind the scenes, how they did it. It was Michael Keaton. Can't think of the woman's name.
Emma Stone.
Thank you, Emma Stone.
Yep. The Incredible Hulk. Can't remember his name. Not Mark Ruffalo. The second one.
Eric Bana?
No, that's the first one. That's volume 1. Oh no, maybe it's volume 2. Volume 3. Which one's volume 3?
Oh gosh, Norton. What the heck is Ed Norton? Ed Norton.
Oh my God.
I love that movie. First of all, obviously, Michael Keaton riffing on his Batman experience, basically.
That's what I always took it as.
Yeah.
When I heard about it.
Yeah. But it's also, he's an actor. He's sort of at the end of his rope actor, and there's some really interesting conversations about theater, and there's a really great scene between him and Ed Norton that I was like, every theater actor should watch this. But it also is that sort of quote unquote one take, you could tell where some of the, but it's so interesting because they'll even do things like you'll hear the music and then they'll pass a guy actually drumming and that was
really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Little things like that. And
okay.
I liked it. I really, the ending is a little up in the air, but no pun intended.
The blocking and stuff on those kinds of movies must be just days and
I can't even imagine.
And days of practice and timing and checking. And like, I saw like one little clip from 1917 and it's like, they got the like train tracks down, and they're doing the thing and there's explosions going off and there's people running and he's like literally tripping over other actors and they just use it because it's like, it looks authentic, right? Because you can't have dirt flying at you and people screaming and running and flailing and stuff without possibly tripping while you're running at full speed,
Yeah.
you know, and trying to beat the camera because the camera has to stay, you know, and it's like, oh my God, it's so impressive.
Yeah. There is a shot from Birdman where they show that they do something and then Emma Stone messes up and they're like, oh, they got to go all the way back to the beginning of it or whatever that shot was and do it all over again.
Oh,
And some of those shots are like real, like the opening sequence of Eyes Wide Shut is like a 5-minute sequence. And it's just Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman just like getting ready to go to a party. So they're just like in their room and they're going in and out of the bathroom, getting the tie and goes in and she's sitting on the toilet peeing and he's brushing his teeth and you know, like, and it's like, so it's real like nonchalant, just like every day getting ready.
Yeah.
But you watch it for like 5 or 7 minutes and you're like, that was just one shot. They just did that. Like it looks so natural. Like, it's like, it seems like such a simple thing to film, but it probably was not, right? Or if they got it in one take, it's because they're excellent actors, you know, like whatever.
Yeah. That to me, I love that. That is something I do love about movie making. And I'm not a movie person like you know, like you are, Brian, but you notice it right away. Like there was an episode of Stranger Things that had a shootout scene with it was like one track, one thing, and then you could see how well it's choreographed, you know, to turn the camera angle. There's some show that Jim Carrey was in that they film. It's like a woman watching TV, but then she goes to the door and then she comes back to the TV, but it's years later. And then she goes over here. And when they film it from the top to show you, there's people coming in and they because they're filming over by the door. Okay, now we got to change this. Now bring the dog in and she's got to change her costume and do this. And it's like, oh my God, that's insane that they're doing it. Or just like Christopher Nolan doing the spinning room thing in what's his face? Inception. Yeah. Like just that to me. I mean, hell, Fred Astaire did it, you know, or go back to the silent movie. What's his face?
Charlie Chaplin.
And when he was in Alaska or something like that, right? I think there was some kind of spinning building or Buster Crabbe letting that
Buster Keaton,
excuse me.
Buster Crabbe was somehow entirely.
Volume 2, when he lets the facade of the house fall and the window frame, just like, it's insane. Movie making. So crazy.
Touch of Evil opening.
Yeah, I always thought that was fascinating.
What'd you say, Vance?
The Touch of Evil opening, Orson Welles. That's another famous continuous shot to start a movie.
Yeah.
Look it up.
Okay. I will.
Whippersnapper. Get my lawn.
There's a cool subway scene in, I think it's Carlito's Way with Al Pacino, and he's like going down the steps and through this, and it's like a whole thing, big action sequence, and it's like 5-7 minutes or something.
Yeah. I know they weren't as long, but I always liked the West Wing walkthroughs. The camera and they're just walking through talking the whole time.
I have to watch.
Well, we did one on Crusaders, episode 5, that like hallway scene. It was like one of the final scenes, and we had to film it so many times because it was like, it starts with checking some guys in a closet, and then we walking down the hall, and I have to get out of the way with the camera and the boom, and like everybody has to. Mike has like a whole soliloquy. He says like the whole walking around, and like it was only like, you know, at the end it was maybe 2 minutes. And it was just like going down a hallway and like into one little room, but it took a long time to film because it's like, it's really hard, you know?
Yeah.
And so I can't imagine doing a, 2-hour movie that way. I'm like, God.
Yeah.
See, you're ahead of your time once again, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love those scenes. Like they really stick in your head.
Sure.
And it's not like there's anything, very good about Crusaders in any way, shape, or form, but I'm like most proud, I think, of that one scene because it was like actually kind of cinematic. Like maybe for the briefest moment, it felt like something and not just schlock,
Well, you know, like that time we were behind City Hall wrapping Shane up in newspaper.
Yeah, right.
Like getting the fire department called us to Dana's building.
Yep. The one time people were walking out of the corner going, what the hell's going on?
Remember when we set the smoke bomb off in that Dana's basement, like building, like the courtyard thing, and then the people were calling the fire department because there was smoke billowing out.
Wait, wasn't that the morgue? Wasn't that, remember you had to like blow the door off the morgue? Remember we were in the morgue that one time?
Yeah, but we filmed it out
How many times
at
can I
like
say morgue?
the apartment building.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was like it was like a hallway with a back door to like where the trash cans were or something. But there was like it went into a courtyard. So we lit all these smoke bombs inside, and then when we busted open the door, all the smoke billowed out, but it also went out the back way too and wafted behind us.
I'll never forget we were back behind like laser tag or what, that area around there, right?
Yeah.
And Mike is saying to me, all right, you're going to run up there and then you're going to jump down and land on some cardboard boxes. And I was like, no, the F I am not. So instead we just sort of like ran on the ground, because I was like, no, you're doing that, Mr. Wrestler dude. No, thank you.
You remember it was so dark back there. We're filming at night, and like we somehow got a door open and we plugged in the extension cord inside a building, basically breaking and entering to film the light. Like anybody could have come at any moment. We would have been in so much trouble. It wasn't like an outdoor outlet. It was like we went in the building that we weren't supposed to be in. Oh my God. The things you do for art. Oh, the dedication.
That's right. See, you can understand James Cameron and Christopher Nolan and all these.
I mean, I understand the drive, right? And but I don't have their like vision, right?
Or their money.
Or their money.
But
their luck.
Well, they're very talented, and they got, they did the smaller things and earned their cred. And then, I mean, James Cameron, the highest grossing movies of all time. It's like just, Titanic and then Avatar. And it's like, okay, and even his lesser movies are still very True Lies, made a lot of money,
Terminator.
And Abyss. Like these are popular movies that. So he's allowed to do whatever the fuck he wants, like.
I love The Abyss.
I do love The Abyss.
Yeah.
The Abyss and True Lies are two of my favorites.
Are we spent?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it was good.
That's fun. That was enough.
Indicia.
Shut the fuck up.
Morgue.